Boy, these YouTube comments just make you sick, don't they? All right. All kidding aside, I am actually sick. Man, I've been sick for like the past 2 weeks. I don't have COVID or anything like that, but I was sick, and then I was getting better. I did a gig and I ran since I'm training for the marathon, and I am sick again this weekend. Life sucks, but and what really sucks about it is I'm so far behind now in putting out my Jethro Tull video and my JTC playlist for Frank Zappa and History of Rock 2010s, hoping I can still put it out in time for the deadline for the 10th anniversary. But I figured, you know what, I'm just going to make a video and I'll do something kind of silly and just have a little fun. And something I've been wanting to talk about for a little while, actually, and that is my 5 most hated YouTube comments. Yes, as any YouTuber, or really anybody who reads any comment section at all will understand, comments can be the bane of everybody's existence. So much negativity. And I think a lot of that just has to do with, for some reason, we are so obsessed with negativity, and especially the YouTube algorithm. Take my video where I talked about the 10 worst Beatles songs, which I put out in the middle of COVID. It is currently my 2nd most viewed video with 425,000 views. And you can bet I get a lot of comments about that video. Whereas the video where I highlighted my favorite Beatles songs only has 148,000 views. Quite a big difference. My Dark Side of the Moon review, which is actually one of my favorite reviews that I ever made, and unfortunately had to re-upload it due to YouTube shenanigans, only has 20,000 views. My video on why Roger Waters left Pink Floyd currently has 239,000. So yeah, we're kind of obsessed with negativity, and that includes content creators. I think we tend to focus on the negatives more than the positive because, believe me, I get tons of really positive comments that I love reading. People being very encouraging in my work, which I really appreciate. Like, I got some really good comments on my last original video for You and Only You, and really, thank you so much to everybody who commented on that video. A lot of you know that original music is still my passion, and I really appreciate the support. And you know, there's still so many other great comments, a lot of great stories that came out of my Pink Floyd album reviews or History of Rock, and even people who disagreed with me, like, say, The Final Cut, for example, which I gave an unfavorable review. There were still a lot of great comments saying, well, I remember listening to this album, and it got me through a really hard time, and great comments, you know, even negative comments or constructive criticism can still be very helpful to read or very interesting to read. I do think it really does need to be said that for anybody out there who is doing content creation, always remember to focus on the positives as well as the negatives. Because I know we kind of have this idea of like, why don't these people who don't like my content like me? Sometimes you got to let that go. You know, you got to understand people are not going to like, not everybody's going to like the stuff that you do. And, you know, they might have their reasons and you just sometimes have to accept it. But listen, you all clicked on a video wanting to hear me rant about my 5 most hated comments. So let's go ahead and do that because I'm sick. I'm not in a good mood. So this is the perfect time to just rant and rave about this. So these are my top 5 most hated YouTube comments. Now, before I get into it, one comment that I'm not going to include here is spam, and that's because I actually have links disabled in the comments section. Some people have called me out on it, you know, upset that they can't provide links to their arguments, and I apologize, but it has to happen. Links on YouTube, people use links for scams and sometimes illicit activities that are honestly a huge problem on YouTube. I think Saberspark did a whole video on that if you want to check it out. But yeah, I have to disable links just because of that. And by the way, can somebody explain to me what the fake addresses are supposed to mean? I guess that's what it is. I keep getting these comments. I have no idea what these are supposed to be. If they're some kind of scam or trolling, I have no idea. But regardless, I have disabled links, so that is thankfully one thing that I don't have to deal with. But with that said, let's get into the top 5. Number 5, why didn't you discuss insert subject here that's actually already being discussed in the video? I tend to get a lot of these in my history of rock videos. Usually at the end I'll say, hey, did we forget somebody? Comment below and let us know. And I've gotten a lot of responses to this, some of which are justified. In fact, we actually made an entire History of Rock Extras video dedicated to artists that we didn't get to in the original 70s video.
Why did you forget Rush, you stupid mother?
In the original version of the 80s video, we didn't talk about The Cure. And people, rightfully so, commented and said, how could you not talk about The Cure? And I remember talking to Nick and going, oh my God, how did we forget The Cure? So, justified comment, absolutely justified comment. And we did, it was one of the few silver linings to having to remake the 80s video is that we were able to talk about The Cure.
Make sure you include The Cure this time.
Oh, I am way ahead of you. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when somebody says, why didn't you talk about a certain artist when I already am talking about them in the video? Like I got a recent comment, why didn't you talk about Oasis in the 90s video? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I played Wonderwall.
Today is gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back to you.
And it's really disheartening because my first thought is, did you just not watch the video? Did you just kind of like skim through it? And you know, to be fair, they're long videos, so I can understand maybe somebody didn't catch up to it, and that's fine. It's, you know, it doesn't bother me too much. But regardless, it does get a little annoying when somebody says, why didn't you talk about this artist? Like, okay, here's a timestamp. I have to go through the video, and I have to find where exactly they are in the video. Here's a timestamp. Here's where they are in the video. Shut up. So yeah, it's an annoying comment. So I guess my request would be, if you're going to leave a comment like that, make sure you watch the video and make sure that I did actually include them. If I didn't include them, then say whatever you got to say. But yeah, watch the video and make sure a band or artist you want to be there is actually there. Number 4, stop talking politics and stick to music. On the one hand, I can understand why somebody would write this comment. You know, listen, I'm a very opinionated person. Everybody who's been watching me for a long time knows that. And if you have read my political posts, you know I'm obviously very left on the spectrum, even if the far left tends to push me a little more to the center. So a lot of times I am going to let my political opinions be known. And that's because, to be honest, I'm just very passionate about it. You know, I'm very passionate about protecting the environment and people's rights to health care and helping our poorest people and maybe not giving so many incentives to the wealthiest of people and protection, women's health rights and protections for the LGBTQ community, a lot of things. And if you don't agree with me on these issues, you know, that's your prerogative. We don't have to have the same political issues. That's totally fine. But one of the things that annoys me is when people do say, stop talking politics and stick to music, because a lot of music that I love and that you probably love is very politically charged. I mean, the history of rock and roll, even going back to the beginning when rock and roll first started with Fats Domino and Little Richard and Chuck Berry, segregation was an issue, and it affected the music. That's where this music came from. Blues music came out of working in the cotton fields. And as rock and roll was happening, the civil rights movement was starting. And then in the 60s, the hippie movement. I mean, my God. I mean, how political. Bob Dylan, the father of rock and roll lyrics, he was incredibly political. John Lennon was political. Roger Waters, you want to talk about a man who definitely lets his politics be known. Like, I remember a friend of mine once saying they went to a Roger Waters concert when he was plastering Donald Trump's face when he played Pigs, and they walked out in huffs like, why does he have to bring politics into his shows? It's Roger Waters. Why would you expect him to not do that? So anytime I especially Pink Floyd fans, like, oh, don't talk Come on, guys. I mean, come on. And I mean, all throughout music history, Neil Young's Rockin' in the Free World, even somewhat more recent, like American Idiot by Green Day, which was really my generation. Believe me, we were terrified that the Iraq War was going on and that we might have been drafted. So look, you can't take politics completely out of this music. The Beatles even did political music. The Rolling Stones, The Who, Pink Floyd, Marvin Gaye, even Stevie Wonder. I mean, just the list goes on and on. Even some artists that I don't agree with their politics, like Ted Nugent, for example. I mean, I really don't agree with his politics, but he has the right to say it if he wants. I mean, that's his right. I think a lot of times when people say stop talking politics, it generally means that they don't like my own politics. And that's okay. You don't have to like my politics, okay? You just have to respect the fact that, listen, I'm going to make my opinions known. That's just who I am. That's what I do on this channel. If you really want to know my opinions about the current election, yes, I am a Kamala Harris supporter. And honestly, I would take any Republican candidate over Donald Trump. I'm sorry, but I can't stand Donald Trump. I think he is one of the most dangerous men on this planet, and I can't stand him. I was really hoping Nikki Haley would have become the nominee. I would have disagreed with her politics, but I felt like, well, she would have been somebody who could at least run the country. But hey, listen, if you think Trump's the way to go, that is your prerogative. That's your decision. You vote the way you got to vote. I'm going to vote the way I'm going to vote. And as far as it goes with me talking politics on this channel, that's just the way it's going to be. Number 3, you should do your research. I put a lot of time and a lot of effort into making these videos. I mean, my God, the Pink Floyd series took me 2 years to make because I was knee deep in reading every book I could get my hands on, watching every documentary I could find, just scurrying for the deepest, darkest information I could find to answer some questions. It's also why I don't post on this channel a lot because, even the Jethro Tull video, I really have been trying to, really dive in and do my research. Admittedly, sometimes I get things wrong. I totally admit that, and things can come off as, maybe opinionated. Maybe that's where people come from. But I really, really get irked if people say, do your research, as if like I just pulled something up on Wikipedia and just copied and pasted it. Come on, man. Give me a break. And a lot of times people will give their own research, which is flawed. I mean, I'm sorry, but a lot of it is wrong. One person kept pushing this one thing in my Roger Waters video that was a fact about momentary lapse of reason that came from Roger Waters himself. So talk about a biased opinion. And David Gilmour refuted it. Is it possible that Roger Waters is still telling the truth? It's possible, but then that's not necessarily a proven fact. That is conflicting information. And I have been very careful about making that known. Dave claims that Roger brought it up.
Is that so? Because I heard that Roger claimed that Dave suggested it.
Well, I guess we'll never know the real story for sure. The point is, look, I do a lot of research for this channel. I really do, all right? So please don't comment and say do your research because it's very disheartening to read that, okay? You can certainly point out, other facts that you may have, I'll give you a great example. I did not know that right before his passing, Richard Wright wanted to play a festival as his dying wish. I didn't know that. And then somebody pointed that out. I was like, oh, interesting new information. I did not know that. So that's very helpful, all right? But don't be smug about it, okay? Yes, I can be smug about it myself. I totally admit to that. But it's my channel, and I don't like it. So anyway, I'm really bitching a lot in this video, aren't I? Number 2. You're too young to be discussing classic rock. Well, I guess on the one hand, I'm glad I'm still so young to some people that they think that. But I can't even begin to tell you how much I hate this comment. Like, this may actually be my most hated comment, and I'll explain why. It kind of goes back to probably when I was a younger man, and a lot of the older generation looked down on me because I was younger. And this is a story that's been told time and time again. Like, even the boomer generation. I mean, boomers who say this understand the GI generation said the exact same thing to you. They said the same thing. Like, oh, you want to criticize what's going on in Vietnam? You're too young to understand. You don't understand or whatever. We went to World War II, blah, 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 blah. And the reason it's so stupid, like if somebody says like, oh, you're too young to understand the Beatles. I was there, so therefore I know more than you. Okay, well then, by that same logic, we're all too young to understand Beethoven or Stravinsky. You know? I mean, you see how stupid that is? You see how absolutely ridiculous that is? Like what? You think like just because somebody is younger than you, they don't have access to research and they don't have access to listen to the albums and come up with their own analysis of what it all means? You really don't think that? Give me a break. And, you know, just because you were there doesn't mean that you know everything, okay? And what is it they say? Like, if you remember the 60s, you weren't there. You know, great saying. I love that saying. But it's like, look, I grew up with two hippies as parents. I listened to their record collection. My dad has been on, God rest his soul, has been on this channel. When we did the 60s episode, he came on. He was our original director. He told the story about the Beatles and the Ed Sullivan Show. He talked about Bob Dylan. He was at Woodstock.
And I turned to one of my friends and said, do you ever think there's something going on out there that we don't know anything about?
I heard his Woodstock stories so many times growing up. Believe me, I have a very good first-person account of stories that happen at Woodstock that probably a lot of other people in the general public don't know. So yeah, when it comes to the whole like, oh, I was there, the final cut, that's another one that just really irked me. It's like, oh, you weren't there. Like, I was there in the 80s in England and I understand it, whatever. And believe it or not, I'm not making this up. I actually contacted Guy Pratt and mentioned this to him. I'm like, is there something that was going on in the 80s in England that I'm not aware of or I'm missing out on? And he said, well, you know about the Falklands War, right? I'm like, yeah, I know that's what Rogers is talking about. He says, okay, well then you know what's going on. You've done your research. You're good. And I was like, well, you know, people were like, oh, well, if you weren't there, you don't know it. And he rightfully said, he's like, well, that would negate most historians. So thank you, Guy. I appreciate that. But at any rate, yeah, the whole idea, stop commenting and stop trying to rag on the younger generation. I mean, believe me, I know there's a lot of people in the younger generation who are very uninformed. I'm aware of that. Our generation, millennial generation, was not that informed either. But there are still a lot of people in the younger generation who want to learn, who want to know about music history. And why take that from them? Why say like, oh, this is my generation's music? No, it's all of our music, man. That's what's great about rock and roll. It continues to inspire generation after generation after generation. And they're the ones that are going to carry on the legacy of this music. So let them enjoy the music. Let them analyze it the way they want to. Let them discuss it the way they want. You know, don't be a curmudgeon. You know, don't make us go, okay, boomer. See how annoying that is? It's the same thing when you say the same thing. So, this is a therapy session for me, man. I feel like I'm having a therapy session just going through all these comments. And my number one most hated comment on YouTube is anything misogynistic, racist, homophobic, or transphobic. Now, fortunately, in the past few years, YouTube's gotten a lot better at filtering out these unwelcomed comments, and rightfully so. It's one of the few things I would say they're doing right. Occasionally, they filter things that I don't know why they filter them, so I usually try to check them at least. But yeah, I'm sorry. If you post anything that is racist, misogynistic, homophobic, or transphobic, it's an automatic block. I automatically block you. All right? You can say like, oh, I'm just joking around. You can't. Jokes don't work in YouTube comments. I'm sorry, but they don't, okay? Unless I know you and I know there's something that's, that's meant to mean something else. But even then, don't do it, man. Just don't do it. I'm sorry, but I have zero tolerance for intolerance. I just have absolutely no, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to hear it. And it creeps through. There was a lot of misogynistic comments about Polly Sampson in the Division Bell review, and I had to put a pinned comment and just said, listen, if you want to criticize her writing, if you want to criticize her lyrics, that's fine. You can criticize her as an artist. Don't criticize her for being a woman, okay? I don't want to hear that crap. I'm sorry, and I don't want to hear Mr. Sampson or any one of these really stupid comments, okay? That's what they are. They're stupid. They're really dumb, and they're ignorant, okay? And it goes back to my whole political thing. Come on, we should be above this sort of thing, man, okay? I mean, yeah, okay, occasionally if somebody can do a joke about it and they could do it in a way that is positive and says something about our society, fine, but leave that to the professional comedians who have been working out this material. It's not like when George Carlin actually said like the N-word in some of his routines, it's not like he just did a Michael Richards tirade and just said it. These were carefully constructed routines that had a point about language and about racism and about how it affects everything. And George Carlin was such a master of language, he could, as he used to say, find out where the line is, deliberately cross it, and be thankful that he brought the audience along. Okay, but a lot of people on YouTube are not able to do that, and the tone of voice is totally lost. It's why when I think Lenny Bruce said when they would read his material in the courtroom, they go, well, that's not funny. It's like, well, of course it's not funny because some guy's just reading it in a monotone voice. I'm not performing it. I don't know why I'm now getting on this whole thing about comedy, whole thing about that. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is I don't want to read racist comments. I don't want to read misogynistic comments. I don't want to read homophobic comments, and I don't want to read transphobic comments. That's it. End all. As Kurt Cobain once said, if you are racist, misogynistic, or homophobic, please don't buy our records. Please stop listening to us and leave us the fuck alone. And rightfully so with me. There's plenty of channels out there that are just there for clickbait. And hey, if clickbait works for you, great. I get it. We gotta, somehow get into the YouTube algorithm. It's probably, honestly, kind of why I made this video too, because I know the negativity is probably gonna get some attention. But at the same time, I really still want there to be a balance between negativity and positivity. Yin and yang, man, It's, So, and we will continue that positivity in my upcoming videos. I want to thank everybody for watching this video, and speaking of the YouTube algorithm, if you can like this video and subscribe, it does help. Comment it would seem so weird to now say comment below considering everything I just said, but hey, if you're not doing one of these 5 comments, we're good, man. Comment below, say what you gotta say. If you don't like my content and you want to say why you don't like my comment, that's fine. You can say that too. I welcome constructive criticism. Just don't do one of the 5 things that I said. Anyway, everyone, I'm gonna try to get out, try to rush out all of my material coming up as soon as I can. I really appreciate all your patience and support, and I will see you all next time.